That connection that you had with the avoidant early in the relationship may not have been as real as you thought it was. Dismissive avoidants often mirror their partners, especially early on in dating. Mirroring is when they are essentially projecting back to you what they think you want to see. And they're doing this to get your approval, to get your attention, to get your external validation. Dismissive avoidants are people pleasers at their core. They rely heavily on external validation, and they've learned from childhood that the way you get it is by making other people happy. Well, they pick up on things that you like, things that you want, and they project that back to you. Many times it's subconscious, it's automatic. They've done it their whole lives. But sometimes it is intentionally manipulative. Maybe they don't want children, but they're telling you that they do because they know that you do. Maybe they don't want marriage, but they're telling you that that's their goal because they know they won't get your approval without it. They won't get the benefits of you without telling you what they think you want to hear. So it's very common for people to say, hey, they told me they wanted kids. They told me they wanted marriage or things along the sort. And then 6 months, a year, even 2 years into it, they're saying they don't want those things, that they're not really into that, or they never really wanted that, or they thought they did. And it doesn't make any sense. Well, they were mirroring you. The thing is, they can't really sustain it because sustaining it would actually require emotional depth, authenticity, being vulnerable, things that they are terrified of. This is a person that was on the receiving end of consistent, profound childhood emotional neglect. Their emotional needs were not met at all. Their feelings were dismissed and rejected. So they learned that closeness, intimacy, it's not safe. And they often had a parent or maybe parents that were very demanding with high expectations that they had to cater to. And when they met those expectations, that's when they'd get their approval. That's when they'd get validation. That's when they'd get their love. It was conditional. So they learned to be people pleasers. They learned to get their validation through people pleasing. And that's exactly what they were doing to you in the form of mirroring early in the relationship. Picking up on cues and clues from you to recognize what it is that you want and projecting that back to you. And it can feel absolutely heart-shattering because this person that you thought was really a perfect match, you wanted the same things, you had the same values, the same beliefs, really wasn't much of a match at all because they weren't necessarily the person they presented themselves to be. Not just when it comes to emotional availability and intimacy and things like that, but even on the things that they want, even on the things that they like and value. Many times, it wasn't really that authentic at all. And a lot of it really is hard to wrap your head around because you're holding on to the version that they presented themselves to be when they were mirroring you. But the version that you have now, it's really hard to come to terms with the fact that that is who they actually are. Because your emotional brain does not want to let go of that early version. And that's often what keeps people hanging on to the relationship or hanging on to an ex, is holding on to that hope that the early version magically comes back. But the early version was never truly authentic. It wasn't really who they are. That was their fantasy selves. Because early in the relationship with a dismissive avoidant, it's the shared fantasy. None of their fears have been triggered. They're riding the dopamine high that they're getting from your validation, and they're pouring out all these bottled up emotions onto you because there's no real intimacy yet, so it feels safe. Plus, they're mirroring you, and they simply can't sustain any of this. But your heart, on the other hand, it absolutely gets shattered into pieces when the mirroring stops and the true, authentic, dismissive avoidant person reveals themselves. That's not your fault. It's not your fault that they mirrored you. It's not your fault that they pulled the rug from under your feet. It's not your fault that they really weren't authentic with you from the beginning. But this is why it's so crucial to hold boundaries, which are your limits of what you'll allow, what you'll subject yourself to, and pay attention for red flags. Because if you can spot these red flags of long-term emotional unavailability early on, you can spare yourself from ever having to go through this again, especially if you hold boundaries.